everyone, welcome back to my vlog. I'm Robin, or A Hobbit's Reading List, and this week, we don't really have a lot going on. I know I had said that in my last vlog, I had, like, exciting stuff, like, over the next 6 weeks. Today is not, or this week is not, one of them. It's a pretty normal week. I'm still trying to finish up my April TBR. I have one book that I have to read, and hopefully we can start on the May TBR soon. Yesterday, I sat outside. You can probably tell I have like a little bit of a sunburn. Ooh, that looks not great. I sat outside for a while, and I read about 4 more stories from Very Good Jeeves, which is a collection of Jeeves and Wooster stories by PG Wodehouse. There are 11 in the collection, so I have 4 left, right? Yes, 4 left. And I don't know what it is, but I seem to just, like, be reading Wodehouse, like, very slow lately. And obviously part of it is that I'm, like, annotating it and adding, like, notes and reactions and stuff so that I have stuff to talk about when my dad and I record the podcast that we read the Wodehouse books for. But it's also just, like, a little frustrating because it's 11 short stories. It's not a super long book. I have it on Kindle, and it's, like, 267 pages or something on there. But it's just taking me so long. Like, I started reading it, I think, Saturday, and today is now Tuesday, which, like, that's not that bad. But I guess it's just a little frustrating that a full week of May has gone by and I haven't started my May TBR, at least not in physical books. I've started, an audiobook, but yeah, I don't know. I have, like, these expectations and, like, schedule for myself, and when it doesn't happen, I get really frustrated, even though reading a book for 4 days is not bad. And if I don't finish it until tomorrow, that's still okay. But it's just the awareness of, like, I have other books that I need to read. I need to read them. And that I haven't yet. It's just, like, a little frustrating. It's fine, though. Anywho, the stories that I read yesterday, I did think they were very funny. I appreciate that, like, I can read Jeeves and Wooster and have a good time and laugh. And they follow the same sort of formula, Wooster or one of his friends has an issue, they go to Jeeves to solve it. Jeeves may or may not be, like, in a passive-aggressive battle with Birdie, and so may make him work for it a little bit more. But either way, the problem gets solved at the end, hijinks along the way, and it's very funny. Like, I appreciate that. It's predictable. What I'm not appreciating, though, I made a couple notes yesterday. Ever since, I don't even remember what the book was, because Damsel in Distress, which I read, I think, in February. Ever since then, I've been noticing more and more fat phobia popping up in Wodehouse, and, like, I recognize it was written at a different time, but when it showed up before, it was just, like, a couple comments, and they were a little more subtle. But ever since I read Damsel in Distress, I'm, like, super sensitive to it, and I'm like, what was the point of that? Like, why do we need to know that this character is larger? Like, why do we need to know that this character doesn't like fat people? Like straight up fat phobia. And as someone who is fat, it's, like, a little frustrating. It's a lot frustrating. So that part I'm not necessarily enjoying, but it's only popped up a couple times. And it's not nearly as bad as it was in Damsel in Distress. I guess the other thing is, like, Wodehouse keeps using this one word in relation to Jeeves, and when Jeeves enters a room, he says that Jeeves shimmered in, or shimmering in, and I'm like, I don't know what that means, but I have a mental image of Jeeves shimmying when he comes into a room, and I'm positive that's not what Wodehouse means, but I don't understand why he keeps using that word. He's used it at least 6 times in the, like, 7 stories that I've read. Like, it's been a lot. And so I'm just like, I don't understand what you mean with this word, and I don't understand why you keep using it. Because I don't think he's ever used that word for that action before, and I'm just confused about why all of a sudden it's being used a lot. So if anyone knows what that means when a person shimmers into a room, please tell me. But that's what I read so far. So all right, I'm gonna get back to work and hopefully read tonight. Okay, so I have finally finished reading Very Good Jeeves, and I think that if I was just picking up Very Good Jeeves and like reading a short story and then putting it down for like another week and then reading the other short story, I think I would have enjoyed it a lot more. But because I've read so many Jeeves and Wooster books, well, I mean, I guess this was the fourth, but like that's so many, and all of them have been short stories. I think I'm getting to a point of like, okay, like, yes, these are still funny and they are still enjoyable, and they're becoming very predictable to a degree where it's lessening my enjoyment. So I gave it 3.5 stars because they are still funny. They are, but it just, because I can essentially guess what's going to happen, and in my notes, because I take notes while I'm reading Wodehouse, like, I would say, like, oh, I bet this is going to happen. And then literally the next page, I'm like, yep. And so it just, still funny. Again, like, I stand by it, but it's just, yeah, it's to a degree where I'm like, okay, like, that's fine. So I'm almost positive that my dad said that the next Jeeves and Wooster book that we are going to read is a novel, which will be different. So I'll be happy when that happens. Because I just think that just the fact that I've read so many short stories, it's like, okay, they're all kind of the same. And there was also, like, I think I mentioned this in my clip from Tuesday, but I'm just noticing more and more, like, fat phobia creeping in, and I don't know if it's just because I'm more sensitive to it after Damsel in Distress, or it really is just, like, showing up more. But I also will note, since I did talk about it on Tuesday, I had mentioned that, like, there was suddenly a lot of, like, Jeeves, like, shimmering into or shimmering out of rooms. That stopped. Like, whatever story I was on, I think I was on the 8th short story or something, that stopped after that, which I found interesting. Like, oh, as soon as I complained about it, it stopped. But yeah, so that's what I've read. I've also listened to more of Brothersong. I will probably finish it Sunday. I have, like, I think, like, 6.5 hours left. I'm going to try to go on a walk later. I know the chapter that I'm going to be listening to is, like, an hour. And then I'll have, like, 2-ish hours tomorrow. I'll try to go for a walk on Saturday. And then I'm going to Benihana with my friend Amy after work on Sunday. So that will actually get me more like 3 hours. So I should finish it, which will be nice because I feel like I'm behind. You know, it took me until, like, May 8th to finish a book. So I just feel like I'm like, eh. So I am going to read Bloom next because it is a graphic novel, so I can just, like, knock it out. And it'll, like, cheer me up. So, but I'm going to try to, like, do things and film B-roll. So this isn't just me talking to a camera the entire video. So, check with me a second. I just realized that I hadn't filmed yet. So the last book I talked about was Very Good Jeeves. I've read a decent amount since then. I finished well, I started and finished Bloom, which is a graphic novel, and it's about this guy named Ari who he works at the bakery that his parents own, but he's also in a band, and he's making plans to move to Baltimore with his friends that are in the band with him. And in order to do that, he has to hire someone to take his place at the bakery. Well, this person's name is Hector, and he is quite literally a cinnamon roll. He's very sweet, he's very cute, he loves baking. And he and Ari develop this friendship, which, you know, gets into more. I always find it interesting, the pacing in the graphic novels. Like, it's typically, especially if it's supposed to be a romance, it's typically like they're getting to know each other, getting closer, becoming friends, getting even closer, and then they kiss, and then the book is done. Or that's how it feels, right? Like, there's not like a ton there at the end. It was a very cute book. I really enjoy it. I especially really enjoy that it's, you know, set on the East Coast. It's on a beach. It was very summery, even though it was set in winter. Which I was like, oh. But that's only obvious, like, in certain parts. Like, for the most part, it's set in summer, but at the end, it does take place in, like, December. So, but I was just like, oh, I wanted summer the whole time. So, honestly, I rated it, and I forgot what I rated it. I think it's a 4-star, if I'm wrong. The correct star will be on the bottom of the screen. But otherwise, so I finished that, and that only took me like an hour to read because it's a graphic novel. So I then started reading the Uncensored Portrait of Dorian Gray. I have not actually started the book. There are 2 like essays at the beginning. One is like a textual introduction, or no. Yeah, one is a textual introduction, and then one is a general introduction, and then the story. So the textual introduction is sort of going into the context of why the uncensored version was published 120 years after the original. And the why is that in the uncensored version, it is a lot more explicit in its queerness. The original that we know of had undertones, certainly, of, you know, homoeroticism and queer love and all like that, but I guess the uncensored version was a lot more in your face. And the original publisher was not gonna do that. So now we have the uncensored version, which has all of the, you know, original that Wilde wanted. So I will probably finish reading the introductions today. I read like 20 pages of the textual introduction, which is really just interesting just to know like all of that history, and then like the laws that made it to where, you know, essentially Dorian Gray, the published edition, was used in Wilde's trial to get him arrested and put in prison for, what is it? Indecent grossness or something. Essentially like being queer. So it's really interesting. Like, I knew all of this, but it's interesting to see how the book played into it. So I will probably finish reading the essays today and hopefully start the actual novel. I read the novel, but this is about, you know, reading it as it was intended. Other than that, I have continued listening to Brothersong. I'm about, I forget. I forget how far I am in the book. I think I only have 3.5 hours left. So I'm maybe at 81, maybe? I don't know. But I'm getting into it. And I'm still enjoying it. I'm enjoying how the relationship between Carter and his mate is developing. I think I'm on the cusp of there being like the big overarching plot completed. Because my hope is that because this is the last book in the series, that the main plot will be resolved, and then we'll still have time for the resolution, which will go into every character's sort of like conclusion. My hope. That is my hope. I have been disappointed before, but I've also not read a series like this in a very long time. So I'm very hopeful. I will be very upset if resolving the main plot takes like 3 hours, because that would be ridiculous. So we'll see what happens. And yeah, other than that, that's what I've been reading. I am hopeful I will read some today, but I do have a very busy day in the afternoon. So pretty much Dad and I are going to meet at probably around 2 to start recording the podcast for Very Good Jeeves. And then almost immediately, assuming it takes 3 hours, which it might, I will then jump into my writing date with Ellis, because I moved that. And then I'll get done with that at 7. Yeah. So once 2 hits, I'll be like, I won't be able to do anything else. So I'm hoping to get some stuff done in the meantime. It's about like 9 a.m. right now. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm gonna post a book review and then see what else I'm gonna do. Good morning, everyone. I have finally finished Brothersong and thus the Green Creek series. I say that like it was like torture. It wasn't. I'm just surprised it took me like literally 6 weeks. But I guess I shouldn't be surprised, because they are like hefty books, and the audiobooks ranged from like 17 hours to 20 hours. So it's actually not that surprising that it took me 6 weeks. Especially because I officially moved to like working from home one day. So I essentially only have like 7 hours of driving time as opposed to like 10. But anyway, I finished it. It was really good. I'm very happy with how it ended. I don't want to give any spoilers. The only issue that I had was that, obviously there was this like big bad across the entire series, and that plot is resolved, and I appreciate how it was resolved. My thing was that like the logic for that character, like to be this like big villain, is that like everything was taken from him by the Bennetts. But that's just not true. Like, I understand, like, he lied to himself, and he didn't want to take accountability, and he blamed the Bennetts instead of himself. But it's just like, my dude, all you have to do is, like, reflect, like, this much to see how you contributed to this situation that you claimed to have made you this, like, horrible person. So on one hand, I get it. People don't want to reflect that much and want to blame other people and apparently wreak horrible revenge on them. But it was just something where I'm like, because and he also talked way too much. But he would, say like, you took everything from me. And it's like, but they didn't. Like, they really didn't. The people that you are currently fighting against did not. their predecessors did. And you had a significant part of that. But it's fine. Like, I understood it. It was just something that, like, after the, like, third monologue, kind of got a little annoying. But overall, I enjoyed the book. And I appreciated the conclusion because it was like a real conclusion, which I would hope after 4 books and like 60 hours of listening. But it was, yeah, I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars, mainly because of that logic piece. But otherwise, I felt like it was really good. It was like a really good conclusion to a series. I definitely recommend checking out the Green Creek series if you haven't already. I believe Brothersong, the like reprinted edition, comes out, I want to say like end of June. I could be wrong, but it's sometime this summer, which I will be buying that once it comes out, so that I have the entire thing. Other than that, I went to Benihana with my friend yesterday. I got very annoyed by an older gentleman that was sitting next to me because he continually, like, and very obviously turned around to look at my chest and then look away. And then about 2 minutes later, look again. And at first I thought that he was just looking at my hair because it is a little, like, attention grabbing, which, like, that's fine. Like, obviously I do this for a reason, right? I like the compliments and the attention. I don't like it about something that I have no control over. And I mentioned it to my friend that I was with. I was like, why does this guy keep looking at me? And they were facing him more because we were sitting like next to each other and he was like perpendicular. And they're just like, oh, he's looking at your chest. I'm like, like, if you're gonna do it, at least be subtle. Like, if your entire body has to move, just don't do it. Just don't. It's so uncomfortable. Because then I had to sit there for another hour with him doing that. It was just uncomfortable. Don't do that. And also, I did not have cleavage. Like, I had maybe this amount of cleavage. Maybe. I think it was a little bit more like that. Like, there was no reason. Anyway, it was really annoying me. I was gonna say something, but I'm so non-confrontational in like particular instances. If it had been him looking at my friend, then I would have said something. But because it was me, I chose not to, which I regret. I really should have said something because it really bothered me. Anywho, other than that, we had a very nice time. And I think I read like 30 more pages of the Uncensored Portrait of Dorian Gray. I finished the like introductions. Like, there were 2 essays at the beginning, and I think I may have mentioned this, the like textual introduction and then a general introduction. I finished both of those yesterday, and so now I can officially start reading the novel part, which should go faster, just because it's not like, you know, it's fiction and not an essay. But the essays were like very interesting, so I appreciate that background information. And it's something I will be paying attention to, like all the changes from what I remember from a couple years ago when I read the censored version. But that's really it. That's really all I've done. But I have finished 3 books this week, so that is something to be proud of. It's hard to be proud of that when I know my dad has read like 20 or 30 books this week, but I also should not compare myself to him. He has way more time and he's a faster reader. But it's also just like, I know I'm gonna be like, I finished 3 books this week, and I'm gonna put that in the title. And I know his weekly wrap-up's gonna be like, I finished 40 books this week. I don't know if he has, but I think last week or something he finished like 31, and it was just like, man, you're making the rest of us look bad. This is all this to say, go check out my dad's channel because he reads a lot. and most of it is sapphic romances. So some of our interests are dovetailing a little bit. So I'll link his channel. Yeah, that's it. So this upcoming week, I will start a new audiobook. It will be Mr. Perfect on Paper, I think so, by Gene Meltzer. And then, obviously, reading Dorian Gray. And then I don't know when we'll read after that. I might start reading Swordcatcher, but it's so big that I might just save it for the end of the month, like closer to the end of the month, after I've made more of a dent in my TBR. So we'll see. But that's about it. So leave a comment, let me know if you've read any of the books that I have. Let me know if you've read the Green Creek series and if you agree with my very vague opinions that I've shared. Like the video, subscribe, click notification bell, all that good stuff. Go outside and enjoy the sun if you have it, and if you don't, enjoy the weather anyway. Weather is awesome. That's my message, I guess. I'll talk to you guys next week. Bye.